All right, Bron Breakker, thanks for joining us. Good to talk to you again. You and I talked a couple weeks ago at Big 12 Media Days and just talking to you about your rise up from football to wrestling and all the success that you have had. Want to get into your time at Kennesaw State, but before that, what is your earliest memory of pro wrestling and your dad and kind of knowing what he was doing?
Um, I want to say, well, my dad, he was doing this was after WCW, obviously, because I
Yeah,
was still a little bit young to
right.
be really to know what was going on. But this was post, WCW, like his full time schedule when he went back and did a couple years with I think with TNA, and I remember
Mhm.
seeing him on a pay per view with the Dudley Boys and they was it was the Steiners versus them,
Mhm.
and I just remember seeing that match. I think it was a tables match too, so that was kind of my first memory as a kid. And then
Mhm.
WWE was WrestleMania 27 was in Atlanta,
Mhm.
and I my oldest brother went to the show, and he brought back like a cup, and it had one of the merchandise, and it had like the program on it where it had everybody's picture. And I remember seeing Triple H's picture on the poster thing on the cup and this big jacked up dude. I'm like, man, who's this? And then like that's really what kind of got me into it. So
Yeah. When did you kind of realize how accomplished your dad and your uncle were? I mean, obviously at Michigan, big successful wrestlers and then becoming big pro wrestling stars. When did you kind of start to soak in and understand like how big of a deal, they were?
I think it was just man, as far back as I can really remember, just
Mhm.
because the standard was always high in athletics for me and my brothers growing up. So it was like, we always had to live up to the Steiner name, and there's just a standard that they set.
Mhm.
That they were so great, and they did such great things in Michigan and the WWE and WCW, and they just they had a heck of a run. So like with that, when you just have to live up to it. That's
Yeah.
all there is to it. It's a standard, and you have to perform. So
When did you first get into sports as a kid and start, doing stuff?
probably 5 years old. I mean, yeah. I mean, I played up in age group in football until I want to say I was like 8 or 9,
Hmm.
and then I was a three-sport athlete. I wrestled, played football, and I was a baseball player too. So I did that all the way through high school, and then football was what I ultimately went with.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, you were very accomplished and especially wrestling and football growing up at Georgia, a very competitive state. What was that like? What you mentioned living up to the Steiner name. I mean, what was that like knowing that the expectations that you had on yourself, but also kind of the people around you had?
yeah, man, just it just requires a lot more dedication and hard work and consistency than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that kind of weight on your shoulders, when you have that expectations of that standard, you have to do more than everybody else. You have to be better than everybody
Hmm.
else. It's just like I'm a big Nick. I like Nick Saban, and one of his quotes, man, it takes what it takes. That's like
Hmm.
one of the most true things to me, just because if you want to be great, you want to be the top, you want to be the best, it takes what it takes to be that. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, it's been like that my whole life. My brothers and I are no strangers to having a high standard, and at Kennesaw State even standards high, man, because we were a new program, had a lot
Yeah.
to prove. So
Yeah. I mean, what was it like also growing up just with your brothers and how did they push you and help you grow?
yeah, my brothers were great athletes. My oldest brother played college football as well, and then my middle brother wrestled in college. I mean, all of us pushed each other, man. I mean, it was just my oldest brother was, he's 6 years ahead of me, so I didn't really get to mix it up with him very much on the mat, and
Hmm.
but my middle brother and I wrestled and stuff quite a bit, and trained and worked out. And, we were on the same, he was a senior. And when I was a freshman, when I got called up to varsity, so we got to share the field a little bit too. So, it's just a bond, man. Something about like, particularly wrestling, just because wrestling is tough. Like, pulling weight and stuff is just
Yeah.
it's a different animal. So, doing some of that stuff together, going on these runs and the sauna and just trying to make weight and, that stuff, you create a bond with your drilling partner and with your team. And, I got to share some of that with my middle brother, which was just, a great experience. So.
Yeah. As the youngest brother, as a kid, I mean, did they uh, beat you up at all or pick on you or anything like that? Or did you have to fight harder as the youngest guy at all, anything like that?
Yeah, just brotherly love, man. You know, we all picked on each other. It was just a lot,
Mhm.
just all in good fun,
Yeah.
just three brothers, just
Yeah.
all in
So,
good fun.
yeah. So what made you go to Kennesaw State to play football? I talked to Coach Bohannon last week. He mentioned they took the whole staff over there to see you to
Mhm.
coming out of class at one point. Really put the full court press on you. They really wanted you to come. What ultimately made you choose that place?
I think it's just the culture and the people there, really connected with the way that I played the game. Um, just, it was a new program. They had had one season prior to me arriving.
Yeah.
So, it was like we were a Division I program, but it was like we had a chip on our shoulder a little bit because we had just everything to prove that we belong. To be not only do we belong, but we can be a top contender in the FCS every year. We're a playoff team every single year. So, when you're and especially when you run the triple option offense under center, so defenses know what's coming. We're going to line up and run the football. So, there's just something about it. There's something about it when defenses and teams know and coaching staffs know, and they come up with a scouting report to scout Kennesaw State, who's running the triple option, and that they're just going to line up and run the football, and you still kick ass. It's like, it's a great feeling, especially just because I loved that group, man. I absolutely loved going to Kennesaw State, and that staff there just really was was unique and fantastic. And my position coach in particularly, and Coach Bohannon, really are the ones who like really pulled it out of me to like play with unbelievable effort, and
Mhm.
just play to my maximum potential, and man, that was this best one of the best experiences of my life was being a part of that.
And you started at linebacker and special teams. I think they moved you to running back your second year, right? What'd you think about that move to offense?
I loved it. I mean, I came in as a linebacker, and then I was a rotational guy freshman year as a true freshman. I just kind of spelled the starter whenever he got tired or whatever. And then going into my sophomore season in the spring, we had some guys. We had some players. Kind of move around a little bit, and Coach Bohannon brought me an office and said, "Like, we need you on the offensive side of the ball. This is what the team needs. This is what this is what we need to win." And I just said, "Yes, sir," and just went with it. It's the greatest decision I could have made.
And you end up having a good career. You guys end up becoming a top five team and making the playoffs a couple of times. Do you have any favorite memories, games, or moments from your time there?
Um, yeah, I would say, I think Jacksonville State was a was a really really cool memory for our program. I think
Hmm.
because in 2017, in particular, when we went to their place, I want to say it was in the playoffs. Um, the previous season, they were. I want to say they lost the national championship game, so they were extremely tough. We knew that going into the game. we looked at the scouting report. I remember getting the sheet the week of the game, and all 11 guys on defense were either SEC or Pac-12 transfers. So,
Yeah.
we didn't have a single guy on our offensive. We didn't have a single guy on offense that was a starter that was from FBS. So we were like, just another reason for us to have a chip on our shoulder. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Another reason for us to go in and say, you know what, we're gonna kick their ass because like we have nothing to lose. And it was that was a really fun game just because we were underdogs and we were in their place, and it was a playoff game, and um, and just playing against such a really good team and a well coached, team as well. And then probably my other memory is probably my first start against Missouri State. I think my senior year.
Is that the one where you broke off the like 90 something yard run?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I set a couple school records that day, but that was my first start in my career,
Mm.
and it was, that was a big day for me just because like it was kind of a turning point in my career where it really, I proved myself. Coaching staff could trust me at the same time to go out and do my job and play up to our standard, our program standard. And it was just kind of like they finally just like, they gave me the ball, and just
Mhm.
kind of let me go. And yeah, I was just ready. I was just ready for it. And that was a huge moment for me in my career, big turning point for me in my football career. And just, you know, we ended up winning a tight ball game that day, but it was just to go up to that, go up to that stadium. There's a lot of history there. I want to say they're Missouri State. I want to say they're in the OVC
Yeah.
or were
Yeah.
at the time, which is a tough conference in FCS. At least when I was playing, it was tough.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was just I had so many good times there, man. I love Kennesaw State.
Hey, are you able to follow college football much at all, given how much you're traveling and doing everything? But do you try to stay on top of it, at least Kennesaw during the season?
Yeah, I'll check in, every couple of weeks or so with my quarterback is now the co-offensive coordinator for Kennesaw State,
Hmm.
Chandler Burks. So, I'll send him a text every now and again, or Coach Bo, either one, and just see how things are going. And
Yeah.
I watch it as much as I can. I I love college football, and it's there's nothing like it. So it's a lot of fun to watch. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed Colorado and their story, and just just it's a great sport to watch.
Yeah, and I
So
saw I saw you on Feinbaum there. You mentioned the Kirby Smart Nick Saban comment as well, so I can tell it's
yeah,
very much something you've stayed on top of. Plus, Kennesaw now will probably play some Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games this year in Conference USA come October,
yeah,
so maybe they'll be easier to catch. So after football, transition to pro wrestling. When you come in for that WWE tryout, I know you had done some wrestling before then, but what was that like going through that the first time in a WWE ring and making that class?
yeah. It was intense, man. It was very competitive because there was a really solid group of athletes in there that were trying out. It was also during COVID when everything was shut down,
Mhm.
so it was a very uncertain time, and things were just like we just didn't know. So I knew how big of an opportunity that it was given the circumstances and stuff. Just like because we came down to the performance center and it was like nobody was there. None of the superstars, anybody was there training or anything, just because of the regulations and the safety precautions and stuff.
Mhm.
So it was just I knew how big of an opportunity that it was and how big of a tryout, and just what it meant for me. And like I said, that group of guys that was there was fantastic. So
Yeah.
um, it was a really good group of guys. So
How did you get that tryout? Did they come to you? Did you apply? How did you end up getting in that tryout?
So I kind of made the decision to choose wrestling because I had opportunities to continue to play football, but I just I was just I was just done. I just
Mhm.
wanted to, it was time. I wanted to be a WWE superstar my whole life.
Yeah.
And, so I told my dad that I was, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to, I'm ready to do it. It's time. And he reached out to Kevin Nash for me, and then Kevin Nash, um, referred me through to Triple H or Hunter, and that's kind of how the ball got rolling. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
and how was that transition from football and amateur wrestling to professional wrestling, which is obviously very much an athletic endeavor, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
Especially with a guy who was, you know, running back full through power and contact and all that. How did you kind of make that transition?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between the two sports. I think a lot of things that translate. Um, I just think football is. I've said this before. I think football is just physical in a different way.
Mhm.
Like you have pads and a helmet on, and it's just the physicality aspect is just this. That's what I would say the biggest difference is because wrestling is tough. Like you just you have to be tough. You have to be built for this. You have to love it. It's just because it's physical. It will. You have to take care of your body. You have to be proactive. You have to be a pro. Because I mean, like you see, wrestle multiple times a week, or they're in the travel, and
Yeah.
just some of that stuff can. I haven't gotten a full taste of it yet in terms of like you know live events and then tours and then flying back from the tour to television and you know but that stuff's coming for sure and
Yeah.
I'm mentally prepared for that, but it's you gotta be a pro. You have to take care of yourself. You got to hydrate, cold plunge, whatever it is, but yeah.
The name Bron Breakker, did you want to have Steiner as a last name, or how did that kind of come together?
Yeah, I just wanted to go my own way.
Hmm.
I knew like the easy thing for me to do would have been just say, let's, you could be a Steiner, we'll rely on the name and we'll go forward. But I just kind of wanted to create my own legacy, wanted to be my own thing and just
Hmm.
kind of, just, just go from there. Just kind of, everyone knows that, there's my dad and uncle, they know that, that's my father, that's my uncle. So, and I do some things in the ring and my singlets and stuff are kind of a, tip of the cap or, pay my respects to them as well.
Yeah.
And to kind of keep some of the stuff they used to do in the ring alive with my own little twist on it to make it mine. But um, yeah, I just kind of wanted to just kind of build my own path, kind of like other second generation superstars have done same thing. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, what do you think of people who say you have the best spear in wrestling? Some people say in history, right up there with Goldberg and what have you, that the strength and the speed, the snap of all of it. I mean, like I think of Sean Bloom mentioned when they saw it for the first time. I think Paul Heyman, I think, said like, no, that's something you want to do. Where did that come from? Is that something you ever just played around with as a kid, or that spear that you've kind of become known for?
I mean, I was a defensive player, at heart, my
Hmm.
whole, pretty much my whole career until I moved to running back in college. So, you know, I've got some tape out there from my high school huddle, my highlights.
Hmm.
Just, I mean, I I was just a violent player. I played the game hard, and
Mhm.
I played the game with unbelievable effort, and you know, I played the game hard. I felt like that's just the only way that I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, that transition to pro wrestling were with the spear because, you know, nobody can run like me here. Nobody can, you know, move like me. So I'm using, you know, that's to my advantage. You know, the implements makes the spear the greatest spear of all time.
Yeah.
Is because, you know, I mean, guys have been bigger than me for sure, taller than me for sure, but nobody can move like me. You know, nobody can hit people like me with the same amount of violence and speed and athleticism. So um I just do what I do, man.
Yeah. Two more questions. You mentioned last time we spoke that Roman Reigns and CM Punk had been some people who had given you some good advice or helped you at times. I'm just kind of curious, what kind of advice did you get from them?
Just just kind of giving me just little pointers here and there, you know, like both of those guys, along with Paul and many others too, you know, Seth and I mean Sammy, you know, there's a bunch. There's a you know a bunch of guys have been you know great you know role models for the young guys, me in particular, in that locker room. So just small you know little things to just kind of you know help elevate me in my game, and you know just trying to just being a student of the game and trying to learn instead of coming in thinking you know that I know it all and everything else. But I think you know the I just want to be a student of the game and learn from these guys who have been at the top for so long. And you know, I mean, those names you mentioned, I mean, Roman, CM Punk, Seth, Sammy, Kevin, Drew. I mean, the list goes on. You know, Damian, I mean, Finn. There's just so many. I mean, so many guys who are so good on
Hmm.
our roster that are just you know top talent in the world for a long time. I just want to you know take something away from if I can from each one of them and just try to learn and see if you know I can you know just implement things or just try to be as good as I can possibly be. You know.
Yeah. And lastly, this is a big moment for you. You're doing a lot more media now. You know, if you have an Intercontinental Championship match at SummerSlam is big. You mentioned the tours and kind of getting into doing all of that stuff. How has handling that been? Having more on your plate, having more attention on you. How have you kind of handled it as you kind of move toward this next part of your career?
You know, I think I think I'm handling it pretty you know pretty well. You know, just I just take it a day at a time. You know, just control what I can control. You know, but it's been a fun process. You know, I'm enjoying it. Some of the you know I'm enjoying the travel and seeing new places and you know, just it's just a cool experience, man. I'm just enjoying the ride, enjoying the process right now. Um, just a lot of fun. I haven't done much traveling until you know got got up here to the main roster, so it's cool to see all these places and these cities and stuff. It's just it's really cool.
Yeah.
So
Well, congratulations on all the success and thank you very much for the time, man. Good luck this weekend.
yeah, thank you very much.